Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Holger. Great to see you again.
Yeah, it's good to see you, Roberto. Thanks for having me.
Thanks to you. Thanks. I'm very excited to do this live with you today. And of course, because it's also a topic which is very dear to both of us. It's a very personal one. And this has a special meaning also for me. And first of all, besides thanking you for doing this, for your generosity with your time and with everything that you share, I would love to thank you, the people who's connected. Now I see there are already a few connected. Hello, everyone. I have the
Hey.
screen. I'm not going to watch the screen now. I just ask you if you can say hi in the chat so check that everything is working fine. And we will not be looking into the chat in the first part of the conversation. Then in the middle, we're going to check if you have any question, if you have something that you want to share or something that you would like to ask to us, please share. We will discuss it later. And if we have no time, of course, we will catch up anyway. So thank you again. Thank you for investing 1 hour of your time, which is the most valuable thing that we have. Thank you, Holger. Thank you, all the people. We don't get our time back, so we have to make the most of this. Absolutely. And so, first of all, I would like you to just tell a little story of how we met and how we came to here. Why are we doing live on awareness about autism and the autism spectrum? So I had the pleasure, first of all, to attend one of your webinar from Strategyzer, and you were acting as a visual facilitator, and I was so amazed of how you were drawing. And you remember you had this camera pointing from the app, and then I said, "Wow, it looks like magic!" And then I said, "Wow, I would love to learn that." And then I kept following you, and maybe it was a coincidence. I saw that you shared a project related to autism awareness, which is this book that I have this, which was October 2023. And I said, and then I reached out to you and I shared with you that I fully supported this initiative. And because also my son was recently diagnosed with having autism. And I got the book. Then I received the book in April of 2024. I loved it. And then, fast forward, I shared few weeks ago a post on diversity, which is, by the way, an amazing book from Temple Grandin, which is called Thinking Visuals. And I reached out again to you, and then you explained this project that you had again once in mind, and it was very quick, and we connected again, and we talked about why would we do a live, and we discussed that this is so important to both of us, and I said yes. And it's funny because we met in person virtually yesterday.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited to hear, first of all, Holger, what's your story and how did you get here?
So that's a long story, though. But to make the long story short, I always felt I'm slightly different than other people. I didn't know why and how, and I thought I could make my living with art back in the days. Of course, everybody told me that's not possible, so I tried to become an architect. Didn't work, so I stopped studying architecture after 1.5 years. Then I became a carpenter, so like a trained carpenter now. And then I became a communication designer because somehow I studied communication design because somehow still arts were like part of my life, being creative were part of my life, as well as I wanted to understand how people communicate and the psychology behind communication. So I studied that, and right away in 2009 I started my self-employment as a communication designer, and now I'm here. This year I'm celebrating 15 years of self-employment, and all the way through, I mean, people always told me that I'm different because I can do all these things and what I do for a living, but I still thought like there's something different in myself. It's not just the creativity, but I never knew how. So in the meantime, we got 3 kids. So my wife and I got 3 kids, and our oldest daughter turned 12 when she got quite strong problems in school. We tried to figure out what it was, and there we got the diagnosis of autism for our oldest daughter. And when I was reading all about it, I know you are a bookworm too, right? You're reading a lot of books. And of course, I bought like all the books possible about autism in that phase. And I told my wife when I was reading them, like, they're just explaining my inner and outer life, like they're just explaining me. So we knew where the autism came from, because it's genetics, right? And it has to come from somewhere. And I knew, okay, that's me. Now I know why I'm feeling different. So that was 2021 when I accepted for myself, in February 2021, accepted for myself that I am autistic. And yeah, from then on, the journey continued. I'm somehow happy that I know it by now. Somehow it's often, of course, a pain as well to know who we are and how we are. I think you have the same feelings. And it's somehow a struggle. It's a gift. I'm trying to find my way through it. And that's why I as well wrote the book, because it's part of how I try to deal with the topic, because it's honestly very complex, very difficult, and hard to live with. And I hope it can help some other people find their way through it as well with the book.
Yeah. Thank you, Holger, for sharing this. And yes, yet I also see one thing, which is here you are, 15 years, self-employed, using your communication skills, combining all these things and doing what you love, because
Yeah.
I can definitely see that you love what you're doing, not only by the sketches on the back of your but how you explain this, and also when you say accept it, yeah, this is something that we have to accept, and
Yeah.
and it should. What came to me, that it should not be like this. We should not have to accept. It's like, okay, this is something, let's say, bad. So I have to accept it, and it's like, and it's more like the awareness. Like, okay, now I understand why I struggle with this. Now with that, and honestly, when it's, for example, in my case, when we discovered that my son Luca is autistic, I thought, okay, I see some, not everything, but some of the things that I see in him, I also see in me.
Yeah.
And I also have to accept something, that maybe something is not so easy for me as it is to other people, vice versa.
Yeah.
So there are two sides, no, from this that I see. On one side, what we accepting, of course, that we are going to struggle with something, because we are not the same.
Yeah.
And at the same time, what's this thing that I'm really good at?
Yes.
How can I use that? And have fun, of course.
And have fun with it. Yes. Yeah.
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 What's your
And I think,
experience?
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm curious, what's your experience with these two sides, Holger?
Yeah, the two sides. So I think, as I didn't know for a long time, like 40 years, right? I didn't know I'm autistic. I basically lived the life of a neurotypical person. So for people who don't know the terms, so a neurotypical person is just another name where other people would say normal. But as we all agree, there is no normal in life, right? So that's why neurotypical people are people who don't have like a mental challenge like autism or ADHD, for example, or bipolar. Those are all challenges of people who you would call neurodivergent, right? And neurotypical people are all the other people who are just in the norm, whatever we like society decides as norm. And by living that life, I think it cost a lot, right? Because I went over my borders all the time. And I'm now like I'm a chronic pain patient as well, right? So I'm suffering headaches since, I don't know, 23 years now, and we're counting. And I hope sometimes it's getting better, but I'm at average on like 4 to 5 days a month without headaches, and I'm on average like between 10 and 15 migraine days per month. So suffering a lot for living a life of a neurotypical person, actually, because it's a lot of stress just adapting to everything around us, right, when we are autistic. And of course, it's always on the spectrum. So some people can deal better, some people can deal less. Yeah. I found, though, that I don't want to miss out as well. So a lot of people say, look, then just like live the life of an introvert, right? Don't meet people, don't go outside, don't work. I don't know how that should work, right? But like avoid all these triggers. And I would say, look, but life is talking to people, meeting people, working, and being out there. And as well, being a bit stressed, right? Sometimes that's part of life because that's how we experience it. So that's kind of on the challenge side. On the positive end, I mean, for me personally, I have a sharp mind, and I would say I have the autistic mind of a combination of hyper focus and seeing the connections. And that helped me in my job, right? I'm a visual facilitator and graphic recorder, try to capture knowledge in a visual way or help people understand what they actually say. And that's my superpower. I can understand everybody, no matter what they talk about. Might be a topic about mechanisms, psychology, biology, law, business. Doesn't matter what they talk about. I understand what they say, and I can help them put things together in the big picture. So if I wouldn't be autistic, I guess I wouldn't be able to do that as well. Yes. So it's a trade-off, isn't it?
Yeah, and when you say that, I hear that we wouldn't change who we are. If we had a magic pill, or the blue pill, the red pill, I will take the pill of being who I am 100%. And one thing that you say when you say, okay, I don't want to live an introvert life or not communicate with people, that when you do, you are much more intentional, you know what you want to do, and then, okay, I have, for example, to my case, and there is a metaphor of the social battery, which, by the way, I shared with a person that I admire a lot. And it's like, okay, I have my battery. I know that if I am in crowded room 3 hours, then I would need some time to cool off. But knowing that makes me anticipate. And again, as with my son needs to know what are going to happen, when and why, etc., etc. If I already see that, okay, no problem. I'm going to enjoy that. Of course, then my energy will be, I need to take a walk in the forest, in the park, or whatever to recharge my battery. But of course, I enjoy interaction. I enjoy talking to people. And last week I was at an event in Madrid, and it was so amazing to see the energy of the people, to see all the interaction, and it was like a nightmare for the social battery, because like noise all the time, queues, and the bathroom, and like wow. But I said, I want to do this.
Yes.
It's uncomfortable, but I want to do it. And the upside of being there, connecting with people, and what you discover, it's of course much more than what we spend in terms of energy.
Yeah, true. True. Yeah, I had the same experience just last week. I was a keynote speaker. Again, that's why I agree 100% with you. I wouldn't want to have anything different than it happened to me in the past, because if anything, even the smallest, tiniest bit was different, I wouldn't be here, right? We wouldn't meet. And so I think everything happens as it happens. I don't want to change it. If I would have known I'm autistic, I'm not sure if I would have become a keynote speaker, right? Because it's the opposite of what you should do as an autistic person. But so I was there at the event, roughly 100 people, and I was there for the whole 3 days, not only for the keynote. Of course, that like my social energy battery was like drained. Basically, I have the picture of like you have to take some power baths with you as well, right? So you have to recharge yourself, and But and I know that after such an event, there's no chance I do another event in the next week, right? So this week was blocked for these kind of events because if I do them in a row, they will kill me basically. So I know I need to recharge and do other things. I mean, we have a life now that is different because I'm here alone in my room and I'm only having you to chat to. But I wouldn't do like another big event or a keynote. Right.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's also the gift, no? Of
Yeah.
knowing and being aware. And from
Yeah.
there, okay,
Yeah.
who I want to be, what I want to express. And then
Yeah.
what's the price that I want to pay? What's the investment that I want to do to have
Yeah.
that? And it makes much more intentional. Which
Mm.
which brings me to the, now that you mentioned it, if I knew earlier, and how does this connect? Because I know you also do workshops and presentation, and so to spread the
Yeah.
awareness in schools. I would love to hear your thought about autism and in the early ages, and what are your experience?
Yeah, I'm a bit torn in terms of how good it is to know, right? And early on, because of course it shapes the path that you take. As I said, if I would have known as a kid, I'm not sure if would have taken this. Most likely not, right? Because I would have known all the challenges and stuff. On the other hand, for my kids, now I see the like that the awareness actually helps them already, right? Because they can learn early on exactly what you just said. Is this thing worth the effort or the investment I have to pay on the other side? Do I participate or not? Do I need my time or not? Or just one example is our son is needs to sleep a lot as well, and I slept a lot too. So when I was at school in my child days, right, children days, I actually had to sleep an hour to an hour and a half every day after school. I didn't know why, and I felt always a bit strange about it, right? If you know, it's not strange. It's just okay. Just recharging. That's fully okay. So, and that's why I actually think it's good to know early about it because you can design your life then the way you need to have it and you want to have it. And that's as well why I wrote the book and why I'm doing sessions and workshops around the book as well. Because I think if we have a good story and what people tell me, the book is a good story,
100%.
we can have deeper reflections on what we heard, right? And we have on a deeper level than just reading about, look, autism means difficulties in communication, difficult in eye contact, difficult in this, difficult in that. That makes it very difficult for a person like you and me or our children to reflect on, okay, how do I want to design my life? But if you read a story, in this case about an alien, you can identify yourself with it as well. You have that leeway of saying, well, that's not for me and I'm different and I'm more this and I'm less this, which is totally fine. And it helps you, as I said, reflect more deeply about it. And that's why I like doing sessions around it, because like reading the book and then talking about it and like what would you need in a situation that the alien faced, and how would it help you to deal with those kind of social environments, and how do you recharge your battery? All these kind of questions you can ask after reading such a story. So that's why I enjoy it a lot. Yeah.
Absolutely. And when you say these examples and putting things into images, also reminds me of the importance of the parents to understand this and to not be perhaps ashamed of
Yeah.
this. And this is something that you put it beautifully, because it's like you normalize everything. For people who is not yet got the,
Yeah.
I'm
Not
not going
yet.
to give much spoiler, is the story of an alien who goes from one place to the other and things happen, and
Yeah.
every time something happens there is a message, and so
Yeah.
you have to give words and images to something that's happened, to situation. And you said no one is identical, so maybe you are experiencing something, maybe you are not. And again, it's a spectrum.
Yeah.
And also one more thing is that there has not, at least should not be a feeling of guilt, of shame from the parents. And this is something that it helps a lot reading the
Yeah.
book because it's completely normalized. There is nothing wrong. You did nothing wrong, probably as a father. I remember I felt so bad.
Yeah. I still feel that, honestly, Roberto. Still feel a lot of guilt and shame around being autistic myself and giving that to my children. And I think it has a place, right? But we need to get away from that feeling, don't we?
Absolutely.
But it's still there. Like, not every day, but a lot of days.
Yeah.
There is a situation where I think like, that's because of me.
Yes. And
You know?
to that, you mentioned the genes, but one thing is genes and one thing is what you do with those genes.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
there are many things that you can do. And the one thing, I think I accept now, whatever I am, whatever my son is, whatever my daughter is, it's what it is. I didn't do anything wrong. But what I would never forgive me, and I was at the point I was like, why didn't I do this before? And because we were seeing signs of something's not normal. No? And my parents also told me that we should go to someone and see. And then people downplayed it. Oh, don't worry, it's just a normal
Development process kind of thing.
process. It's a little slow. And then, and my intuition was that no, there's something more. I have to see it. And then when we got this, we said, oh, I should have done this before. I should have been more determined to find out this. And it's also easy, to dismiss. Yes, of course. This is what you want to hear. You want to hear that everything is going to be okay because statistically it's okay. Everything is going to be fine. But then you look at the other side. If you can do something by early detection, early intervention, as we said, it's a spectrum. We don't have black or white. It's not like a condition that you have a virus or you don't have the virus. It's like, and you had not cure anything. You just have to know who you are, what are your strengths and what are the things that you're struggling. And I always use a metaphor, at least for to rationalize this. It's like thinking that my son had his left leg a little bit stronger than the other one. So you need to do exercise to be able to walk normally. And maybe if you jump on one leg, you will be amazing on that leg. If you have to jump on the other one, you have to be very trained on that. You have to focus on that. So you have to raise the level so you can walk normally. And you can run and you can do everything. And perhaps the most hard thing to accept, and honestly, I don't know if I accepted it, is that my son could not have an autonomous life. So be thinking about, okay, of course, you eventually, if this is the case, you get to accept it, but this will be very hard for me. But then, okay, things go on, you see the progress, the more you put in, the more you get. This is something that 100%. It's so satisfying to see that.
Yeah, true. And I think you said something good there as well. So there's nothing to cure.
Yeah.
So a lot of people still think or assume you could take a pill against autism, which is not. It's not the case, right? It's just not it's just how you are. But you can work on strategies and tactics to deal with life and to find your way, right? I think that is important. And if you do that early on, you build a strong foundation, as well as like of a person who might be able to say, I don't want this, or I can't do this, or I don't want to do this, and I need a break now, right? Where everybody would say, no, let's continue. That person might be able to say, no, I can't. Yeah. And we need to build those strong people. But I got an inspiration. I would like to share a drawing with you, Roberto. It just came to my mind. Let me just switch to another camera. I hope that works. You should see my hands now.
Yes.
And you should even be able to see me in one of the corners, perhaps.
Yes.
But when we assume that it's basically a spectrum, like autism is a spectrum, right? So it's this egg-shaped circle,
Yeah.
and we have all these different things. Let me just continue in gray for now. So if we say, let's say, like little to no challenges in the center and maximum challenges on the outside, right? There are some typical traits of autism that you could take, and we could then skip some of the others. But there is like the communication issue, right, where it's hard to understand what other people say, or understanding jokes, for example, is difficult. So let's do a smiley face as well. So that is difficult, as well as eye contact for some autistic people is very difficult to hold. But then as well, what we talked about, the energy, like the social battery thing, is sometimes fuller or sometimes less full. Then we have the challenges of like what you call the theory of mind, right? To be able to imagine what another person is actually thinking right now. So the feelings and emotions and thoughts of another person are for some autistic people just not accessible. It's not possible. Like they don't see it. They don't. They don't see it. Let me see. I'm just switching the camera here, and then so we have these challenges.
Yes.
Then we might have other challenges, like for example, touch and taste, and like some autistic people don't want to be touched. Some want to be touched. Different things. We have the time blindness, the time blindness where like some just don't know what time is, and they don't have like a feeling for it. And there might be the special interest, right? The thing that they think about, only the thing that they think about. So if you see all these things on a spectrum, basically, right? And we know that early on that we are autistic as a person, your son, my kids as well. You can start in thinking about like, where am I on that spectrum? Like you could think like, okay, like communication for me is like a big challenge, right? But I understand jokes, so that is basically not a challenge. I can hold eye contact, but it's very hard for me, so I put it here. Then my social battery, very low, so it's a big challenge for me. I have a very special interest, so I only want to spend my time here. I have no problem with the time blindness. I have no problem with being touched. I have little problem to think what other people say. And you build that knowledge about yourself, and that is the spectrum of one autistic person, right? It's not the challenge of everybody. It's just one specific autistic person. And if we know that early on, we can either decide of, okay, look, I have a big strength here as well here, and I can communicate. So can I make something around those topics and focus on those? Or do I see and develop strategies that, for example, I can have less time blindness, or strategies of like, I don't know, understanding better jokes or whatever it is, right? Can I build the gaps? And I think that's why it's so important that we early on know about who we are, right?
Wow. This is amazing. And thank you for doing this live. And Holger, this reminds me also of a beautiful exercise in coaching, which is called the wheel of life. And it's exactly like this. You can put all these things on a circle, and then first of all, you start grading and being aware. And then when you are aware, you can decide what to do. And also the beauty of what you did is that, again, no two persons are identical.
No, exactly. Everybody will look different, which is a good feeling, isn't it? Because sometimes I'm not sure how it is for you. When you say, for example, you are autistic or your kid is autistic, people think in an avenue. Okay, like that person is like, they can't hold eye contact, they can't understand jokes, they can't communicate, and I don't know. And they are flapping their hands all the time. right? So that's what people think. But that's just one type of autism on the huge spectrum.
Yeah.
And the spectrum is not a line, right? That is important too. That's why I drew a cycle. And I'm not sure what's happening with the camera. I'm sorry for that. Let's see. I will fix that in a second. But when we have the circle,
Yeah.
it shows the real spectrum because there's no end and beginning. It's just like different. And I think we need to change the camera for a second.
Absolutely.
Give me a second.
While you change the camera, I reminded one of a quote from your book that I'm going to read. Just one.
Yes.
No, I'm not going to be more spoiler, but there is a phrase which is exactly what you said, which is this, which is, please remember that if you know an autistic person, then you know one autistic person. Not everyone is autistic.
Yeah.
So this is exactly the same. And I would also say that this is valid for everyone.
Yeah.
If we take out the label autistic or neurotypical, there are not two people identical in the world. The thing is probably that we have these kind of labels, etc. Because of course, when in this circle that you draw, where you are on a very extreme, it becomes very challenging, and so you have to adapt. But if we only had a scale from 0 to 3 or 0 to 4, we wouldn't even notice because we would be like, okay, everyone is different, it's normalized. The thing that we have some very hard challenges in something make us think that, okay, everyone is like this. And it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I cannot yet see you, Holger?
No, I know. I'm still building it in the background.
Okay. Now I see that. Wow.
Let me just figure it out. So I think it's too hot in my office right now, and my camera decided to not work anymore. But I will figure out a way because we can't switch cameras during.
It's funny because you are in Germany and you have too hot, and I'm in Spain, and the temperature is good. Okay.
Oh, that's strange. That's strange. So let's see if that works. If we do this.
Let's do one thing if you want also, Holger. We can check the chat and see if we have some message, which is, I see now it's 4. So let's check. Now I see you again. Okay.
Yes.
Let's see here. We have some comments. Let's see. Okay, from the beginning, let me refresh. Okay, more from the most recent. Okay, now I see. Hi there. Hi, Becky. Thank you for connecting. We just chat this morning. Thank you. Thank you so much, Becky, for being there. Hi, Lokesh. Okay, there is a question from Kari, which asks, are you aware of the term highly sensitive people?
Yes. Yes. And they are basically on a spectrum too, right? And when we see this picture here again, let me just see if I think the angle was this way, right?
Yeah.
I think that was the right way. And make it a bit like this. So highly sensitive people would have many things here not kind of going to the maximum, where we say, okay, maximum is somehow difficult, or I think I wrote the wrong way, but let's say this is okay and this is difficult.
Yeah.
But then highly sensitive people would have issues with, like, especially the topic of, I think, sensory issues like touch, like visual. We should add hearing, right, and smell and all those kind of things. They feel the whole room. They don't need to be autistic in that sense, but some autistic people are highly sensitive, right? So we have, like, there's often an overlap, but it's not necessary. Those people have other challenges though, right?
Yeah.
Hypersensitivity is a struggle too.
The combination are infinite. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, hello, Georg. Hi, Komal. Hi, Tanya. Yeah, there is one question. who shares with Becky, the guilt and some judgment never end. And thank you. You shared that you wake up every day wishing you had done more from the 20 years old with autism. Yeah. Thank you, Becky, for sharing this. And this is also, I think, this is also why it's so important, the work that you are doing in sharing awareness, especially at the early ages. Because there is, first of all, you have to have the information. If no one tells you, and you are not familiar with that, maybe you think this, okay, maybe my son or my daughter has just difficulty. And we say here in Spain that it was like, okay, he's a difficult kid, you know, this label, the difficult kid. And how many difficult kids are perhaps people with autism? And then so the first you have to know. And then it's on you with the information, what are you going to do? And of course, if it's something of genes and whatever, you cannot do anything. And maybe you can say, oh, what I did during the pregnancy, did I do something wrong? Did I give him or her something? And there is also one thing which is tormented me a little bit in the beginning, especially, which was the regression. It was completely neurotypical in the beginning, and then by 2, something happened. I think, what's happening? What did I do? And that's okay. We will never know. Of course, there is no answer. But I want to think that I did everything that I could. Of course, now it's easy to say, but in that moment, now because I see the progress, I see what we did and how amazing the progress is going to be, and how happy also Luca is. But then you see, when you see your son unhappy, because he was like a fish out of the water. He didn't know what to do. And I was like so frustrated. I didn't have the tools. I didn't have the information. And again, you have to want to do something. And I strongly believe that if you know what it is, and there is no judgment from your circle, from in general, from the school, from society, from parents, whatever, then it's much more easy to take action.
True. It is. Yeah. It's and I hope that most of the people get like support from their circle, because it gets so much easier. I must admit that for us, we don't have a lot of support in the circle as well as from the schools. So it's more like teaching the school and the other people around what it actually means to be autistic, and how to deal with that, or basically how the individual autistic person has to deal with all the things they have to deal with. So it's a bit tricky. So it's actually a lot of not fighting, but talking and discussing and telling people how it could work. Again, that's why I wrote the book as well, to have something to give to people, right? It's a different thing to have like a book with a story and some short explanations that you can give to people. They can read it in their own time. And then afterwards you can have a conversation about it, then sitting in front of people telling them this is how it works, this is how it works, this is how, like, it's just like changing the way you transport the message is changing the way the message is perceived, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because then you have this, you can sit with your daughter, with your son, and you can read and say, oh, okay, this is it. And you remember it. Okay, this is, oh, I'm this. Oh, I have this. Oh, whatever. And it's a fun way and fun. Yeah. And it also helps to create a bond and to share these things from a playful perspective, not let's say clinical point of view.
Yeah, true.
Okay, it's life. And one more thing, now that we're talking about being with our kids, I also strongly believe, first of all, I'm talking about this from a position of absolute privilege. I'm so lucky to be where I am, to have the resources that I have, to have the knowledge that I have in the moment. So it's very easy from this position, with all the support that we have, with all the time that we invested, with all the economic resources, because also it's a huge investment. If you want to do it all in, it's of course, it's a sacrifice and it's an investment. So you have to be very mindful. So first of all, I'm talking about this from a privileged position. At the same time, I also believe that most of the work is done in home. So of course you have to have the specialist, the school, etc. But then I believe that it compounds only if you do the same at home. We cannot
True.
delegate everything to the therapist, to the occupational therapist, to the logopedist, to the psychologist, because they're seeing once a week. You cannot stay 8 hours because, again, you'll be overwhelmed. It's much more.
Yeah.
15 minutes, something as easy as 15 minutes, 30 minutes every day, which is not easy to pull out as a parent, as a working parent, with
Yeah.
2 kids, with all these things. So you have to be very mindful. But then when you do it, and if you are patient, and this is also, if we are like our child, we have this focus. At least I have this focus. I see myself a lot in the very focused person.
Yeah.
And I had this vision that whatever happens, I would never miss my exercise with Luca in the evening. And that was like, wow, 2 years, every day. And it's so hard in the beginning, but then you start seeing the result. And
The results
again,
are getting better.
the more you put, the more you get. And it's, again, easy to say this from a place where we have all the resources, but at the same time, I feel that if we didn't do this at home, we will be by no means where we are now.
True. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, we could go on for hours, of course, talking, and I'm curious also about one thing. We
Yes.
talk about autism and the spectrum in life, and I'm very curious. How does this connect to the workplace and to some more professional relationship? What's your view?
So first of all, I think that everybody could learn a lot from autistic people in terms of communication, because how to phrase this in a proper way. So just give you an example. Like I learned when I learned that I am autistic, I understood that I learned communication by cognition, right? So I learned how to communicate by observing other people, thinking about how they communicate, what they do to communicate, and if I should adapt it or not. Neurotypical people learn communication by just observing and mirroring and just doing it without thinking about it. So because I had to think about how I communicate, I developed some internal rules as well for my communication and being very conscious about how I communicate with who, right? Is there a person where I see they already struggle having eye contact? Would I look into their eyes or more comfort them as well and looking more away? If I have a person that's very strong in terms of holding eye contact, I would just mirror that by choice. It's not just like a feeling of mine. It's just like thinking, oh, that person is really like looking into my eyes for so and so much seconds. So I do the same for comforting them. So I developed a lot of rules. And what I figured is in the workplace, and many people of us are working in the knowledge worker area where we have a lot of meetings, right? Of course, there are a lot of people who are not working in the knowledge field, but like if you just think about meetings, how much better would they be if you would have specific rules how to communicate with each other? If you would speak about what do I need, what do you need, how could we work better together, right? Not on an autistic level, just saying, look, for example, when you, Roberto, send me a voice message on WhatsApp, I will not listen to it because I don't listen to voice messages. I just don't listen. If you send me post to the physical post to my mailbox, I will not open it until my wife takes it out and opens it, right? So when we communicate with each other, we should agree that we just text, right? Email or WhatsApp or whatever, because that's the best way to communicate, because I can't communicate in another way. Wouldn't that be awesome if we could do that with everybody at work? just talk about what's your preferred way to communicate, what's mine. Or, for example, one thing that I do with a lot of clients is, look, please send me different emails for different topics. Don't send me one email with 3 or 4 topics in it, right? Please send me 4 emails. They say, yeah, but I don't want to send you 4 emails. It looks like spam. And I say, like, look, if you send me 1 email and there are 4 topics and I don't have an answer for topic 3, I will not answer the other questions until I have that answer. If you send me individual messages for every question, 1 message, I will answer the questions I have answers to. So you get 3 answers already right away, and you just have to wait for 1 instead of waiting for all of them, you know? So I think when we become more aware of how other people work best, everything can improve. And that's not only for autistic people, that's for everybody. And then if you have autistic people, of course, there's the special need for adapting a bit more, because unfortunately, there goes the system of the less complex needs to adapt to the more complex system, or the less stiff needs to adapt to the more stiff context, because autistic people sometimes can't change, or it takes a lot of effort for them to change, whereas neurotypical people can adapt a bit more easily in terms of communication, for example, how to work together. So it's, in most cases, it's that neurotypical people have to adapt how they act rather than the autistic person has to adapt. Of course, everybody should try to come together, but there are some situations and some things that an autistic person just can't do. It's not possible for them. Not that they don't want to, it's just not possible. And sometimes it's very difficult to understand what it is, because it feels so easy if you can do it, and it's so strange if you can't.
Yeah.
So that would be my 2 cents on that.
Wow, and it's brilliant, because first of all, I think you touch on one thing, which is don't make any assumption about your preferred way of communication is the way of the other person. And if they don't engage in the same way, maybe you think, oh, he or she is not looking into my eyes, there's something wrong. No, maybe there's nothing wrong. But if you make the assumption that this is because they don't like me, no, maybe it's that because they don't are comfortable with that. And that's the first. And then also, you mentioned one thing which is, I think, connected to the psychological safety, of being able to talk about these things and not to be judged. And then from there, you agree. And it reminds me also of the team agreement, which is very basic. We don't have to talk about neurodiversity to say, I don't want to for example, I don't want you to send me a direct message with a file attached. I prefer an email, or it looks silly, but maybe it's how every one of us works. And maybe then again, we can agree what we want as a team. Do you have any special need? For example, if I'm overwhelmed by an audio message, as I said, 2.5 minutes of audio message. What's that? Oh, no, I will give it to Copilot so it can transcribe to me, because I don't want to hear that. Or maybe I want to have a message, an audio message, because it's something personal and it's a second best to having a call. So we can agree on this. And how amazing would be, and we don't do it as much probably, and we can always do more, but if we start a project with, and again, in knowledge workers, we probably also have the experience of working on a project with a team, and then we disband the team, we move to another team, and we are working with different people. If we invested in the beginning of the project, one day, and it's a lot, knowing each other, discussing how we want to work, what's our limits, our boundaries, what's the thing that we like, what's the thing that we don't, how easy would be the rest of the project.
Yeah, so much easier.
Yeah.
So much easier. And
fun also, because you discover, when you do this, you discover that, okay, I'm not the only one who doesn't like 2.5 minutes audio message, and you also normalize that, and you think that you are different, and you have, okay, well, there has to be something wrong with me, because everyone sends these 2.5 minutes messages.
Yeah, sure.
But then you see, okay, me too, and or not, and you have a conversation. And it's the same as normalizing something in the personal and school, and the same in work. Of course, perhaps, as you said, you must have to be a little more intentional in work. You have the structure, then you have the team dynamics. It's not like in your family. But I'm optimist. And I hope that more and more we see this in organizations. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and I'm curious now, Holger, besides, of course, the Kickstarter, which I'm sure will be a huge success, what's the thing that excites you the most?
What excites me the most? Yeah. So, first of all, it's when I see people change. Like, I like to see the epiphany of people in their eyes when they learn something new and they see something, and perhaps I was the person who taught them a skill or gave them an insight, and I see like this spark.
Yeah,
I think that's really exciting. And the other thing is really, I'm a creator and I'm a creative person. So if you let me just create what I just want to do, I am very happy. And I don't have like a focus. So you might know, but I'm writing a fantasy novel right now. I'm writing a poetry book. I'm writing business books. I'm drawing. I'm painting. So I think that through creativity we can somehow experience life in the best way, and as well we can understand a lot of like things like psychology and as well communication, how we people tick. I think creativity is one way, or one of the best ways to dial into that and figure that out. And I know from your work that it actually works, right? So you work like you are hyper creative as well, and like it helps us without often saying it, just getting to the point. So I'm very excited about that.
Beautiful. Yeah. And I see these two things. I see a connection also from what you talk about, because what I hear is that what you do with all this creativity also helps you to be who you are, and this is an expression of who you are.
Yeah.
And again, when we said I would give up anything of who I am, because this combination, it was make me unique. And again, I also resonate a lot with what you said, that seeing the spark in the people, and it connects with my coaching practice also. And this is one of the gifts that of being a coach, that you see that everyone is creative, first of all. And maybe, I'm not creative. Yes, you are. Everyone is creative. We're just, remember, as kids, we were doing every kind of things. And then maybe someone told us something, or maybe we decided we were not creative. We had this assumption again. And then you take off this idea and you say, oh, yes, I can be creative. And this is amazing. And you didn't do anything less than show them what you see through your eyes, and then ask a question.
Yeah, very powerful. That's very powerful, definitely. Yeah.
Super interesting. Yes. And one more thing that I would love to hear, and also it's perhaps, it's connected with what we talk. What do you think is the biggest challenge that someone who has a daughter or son with autism, or is himself on the spectrum, perhaps, what can be the biggest challenge, and what would be the message that you want to give them?
So I need to draw something for that again. Let me just draw something here.
I love that. Thank you.
So let me see that you can see everything. Yes. So I think for me the most important thing is that we have this battery, right? And for a person with autism, or parents to a kid with autism, I think it's important to just accept that this battery in most cases is not full at any time. So it has less capacity than neurotypical people. So this is the autism capacity, let's say it like this. The given energy per day. If you would be normal neurotypical, you could have the full thing, right? So this will be the neurotypical level, the NT, and this will be the autism. Accepting that would be a first step. Then as well is that every activity that we normally tend to identify as a normal activity costs way more energy than we think. Like talking to other people, like eating. Perhaps there is something wrong in the food, right, that can drain the energy instantly. Like hurting yourself because you run against a corner or something, right? Not finding something or not knowing the answer. All these things can be very strong energy drains. Way stronger than we would assume as neurotypical people. And if you accept this as okay and being that this is the norm, that this is okay, and having the awareness and appreciation for it, it makes life way easier, because then you can accept that like a small hurt of the feet can kill the whole, like can pull it down to close to zero, right? The energy. And then the other part, and I think that's even more important, is that for an autistic individual is both thinking about their own energy is a challenge, as well as telling you, right? Telling you is a huge challenge. So accepting that as well, that often enough you can't figure out what is going on inside of your kid. You can't figure out what is going on in yourself sometimes, right? Because you're not able to express it properly, which is one of the major challenges of autism, expressing what's going on in yourself, within yourself. So, and if you manage to get clarity about that and somehow inner peace, then you are a huge step forward. But I must say, depending on my own energy level, I forget all about this as well when it gets tricky sometimes. But that would be my answer to your question.
Wow. Thank you, Holger. And one thing comes to my mind when I see this and when I hear this, which is being kind to ourselves first and to others. And don't expect that you have to be 100% all the time. We are not 100% all the time. No one is 100%. We don't have to expect our kids, neurotypical or not, to be 100%. So be more kind, perhaps, is also... Which as a parent, of course, it's challenging. Now you always want your kid to be better than you. You want the best for them. So you have to remember, okay, you have to be kind. And this great message. Thank you.
And I want to counter this, Roberto, as well, because I know it helps if you hear both sides of the coin. So yes, you can work on it. Yes, you can make progress, right? But literally every day within a family with autism, as ours, for example, I guess with yours too, there are points where you think, I can't do this anymore. And there are points like a lot of tears, right? On all the sides, a lot of crying, a lot of conflicts as well. No matter how far you get in the progress, this will not go away. And if you are a listener here right now and you experience something like this, just know that this happens to all of us. Just as you said, Roberto, we don't always have the perfect life. And I think it's important to know that in the situation that we are in, as positive as we want to be, as positive as we stay, as much progress as we do, a lot of the time, at least that's for me the case, and my wife as well, I'm thinking like, I can't do this tomorrow again, right? And I think it's important that we see that side as well.
Yes, and to add to this, in that moment, you also have to forgive ourselves. If we do something that, for example, sometime, I remember one moment, the lowest possible moment that I had with my son. I still remember 100%. I was not as kind parent as I wanted to be. And this was before knowing. So imagine how you feel that. 2 months after that, you get the information, you say, okay. And you have to be able to forgive yourself because they forgive you. and also it's how you repair that. Not what you do, but how you repair that is matter. So if we fall, and we will fall, we are human, we stand up again, and you said, very important thing, in that moment, you say, I'm not going to do that tomorrow. I don't have the energy.
Yeah.
But then also to add a positive note, at least from my experience, you always find that.
Yeah, you do. You do. Yeah.
So in that moment, just I will remember this battery. I will remember the battery. Okay, my battery went down to 0 at that moment.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow, full battery again. I apologize if I did something wrong, and we will learn from this and go on.
True. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Roberto, as well.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Yeah. And it's just getting up again. There is a way.
Yeah.
That's what we say.
Absolutely. And with this, I am also conscious of the time, and we could go on for hours, of course, and this is a topic so interesting. And I would love, we didn't check the chat, we will check it later. Anything that is not answered, we will connect. But one more thing I would like, before closing, I would love to hear what's the best way to connect with you, or how do we want to invite people? If someone listening to this wants to know more about you, about your work, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah. I think the best way is my website. That's my full name, holgernilspohl.com. We will write somewhere in the links and stuff, so you'll find it on LinkedIn here. And I'm on all socials under my full name, Holger Nils Pohl. If you are interested in the topic of autism and the book that I just wrote, you can go to my website as well, holgernilspohl.com/autism. And currently, when you are looking at this on the 19th of June in 2024, the Kickstarter is still running. We are over 200% funded right now. So, and still you can get the book, the print book or the ebook, and an emotion toolkit and much more cool stuff. So head over there. When the Kickstarter campaign is over, you will just land on the website that is made for this book. So you can find everything there.
Amazing. And congratulations on this, the 200+%. I'm sure it will be even more. Thank you so much, Holger. You're a wonderful person. Thank you for your generosity, for your openness, for your authenticity, and for sharing all these lessons that I'm sure many people, I was thinking that even if one person gets something from this conversation, it would be a huge satisfaction, and I'm sure that this is the case, and even more. So thank you for all that you're doing. Thank you for doing this. And thank you also for the people who connected, who stay with us. I hope you enjoyed. I enjoyed so much. It was a wonderful conversation. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care.